I will now give the floor to the Honourable Pio Tikoduadua, the Minister for Infrastructure and Transport.
Madam Speaker, rises the Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, and also as Leader of Government in the Parliament, to speak in support of the 2015 budget. And I commend the Honourable Minister for Finance and his team for providing the nation with a blueprint for our development next year that meets two principal objectives. It builds on the Bainimarama government reforms over the past 8 years, and it opens up new areas of spending to continue our task of addressing the needs of the Fijian people. It is comprehensive, it is imaginative, it is responsible, and it is a budget for our times, an era of great hope and opportunity. But, Madam Speaker, before I proceed to make further comments on the budget, as announced by the Honourable Minister for Finance, I would like to reassure and reaffirm our people, the people of our beloved nation, that in the words of our Prime Minister, we are a government for the people of Fiji. In particular, I want to reassure my taubus on the other side from Vonolevu. In particular, the Honourable Ratunenga Malalambalabu, the Honourable Tuidakaum, Honourable Noikula from Buddha, Honourable Tangibetoa from Bua, and also the Honourable members from Vonolevu on this side of the House. That your interests are in the very heart of this government, as is the interest of every other citizen of Fiji. And to demonstrate this commitment, I want to say that Fiji First did not get majority support from KIC Navosa. However, it is where we will build the next new hospital in Fiji next year. Also, by the same token, Fiji First scored minimal votes in the Vanua of Naitondo. But I want to assure the people and the villagers of Ramuna and Watani and Kamba that this Fiji First government and the influence of a number of citizens from Northland in the House, on this side of the House, and not the Honourable Tikoduadua, that we will be building your road to your beautiful peninsula as promised by the Honourable Prime Minister next year. Madam Speaker, we are capitalizing on Fiji's strong economic performance and our growth rate over 4% to continue to invest in our national infrastructure and the intellectual capital of our people. Whether it is expanding our free schooling program, providing more communities with basic services such as electricity and water, or continuing to upgrade our roads network and our ports and airports, these are all investments in our future. We are building a stronger economy, and we are giving our people what they need to improve their lives and the lives of their families. Fiji is on the move, Madam Speaker. And how fortunate we are that this government is in the driving seat, because the alternative laid before the nation by the honourable members opposite this week demonstrates once and for all the wisdom of the Fijian people in choosing Fiji First over the other parties. Madam Speaker, in my maiden speech, I expressed disappointment that having had 8 years to think about where they might take the country themselves, those opposite had come here, Madam Speaker, with no fresh ideas again. Listening to their responses to the budget, I had the same sinking feeling as I had at the beginning. Because instead of plausible alternatives, all I've heard all week were a series of contradictions, Madam Speaker. They don't seem to have a viable alternative blueprint to take Fiji forward. Some of them don't even seem to know the difference between a government ministry and a statutory authority. So the feeling on our side of the House this week is again one of overwhelming disappointment, Madam Speaker, that we do not have an opposition that is worthy of the title to keep us on our toes. The Prime Minister spoke before the last election of waging a battle of ideas to decide the future of Fiji. This assumed that the opposition had some ideas in the first place. But honourable members opposite have shown once again that they have nothing in their arsenal. Nothing valuable to contribute to our nation's development. Nothing cogent or sensible to take us forward. It was bad enough having to sit through the claim by the Honourable Leader of the National Federation Party that this government has increased the gap between the rich and the poor in Fiji. What utter nonsense. The truth is that we have done more than any other government to close the gap, to give low-income Fijians the leg up they need. Whether it is free schooling, free access to medicine, subsidized electricity, subsidized water, even free milk in our primary schools. Listen. None of this was provided by previous governments. So the real gap here, Madam Speaker, is a credibility gap on the part of the honourable members and the gaggle of economic redundants around him. But what was really astonishing, Madam Speaker, was the honourable member claiming that the budget was, quote, economically boring, unquote. I'm sorry you were bored, Mr. Expert. Unfortunately, you're not here. But this budget wasn't formulated for your entertainment or so you could give your academic tick. It was formulated so that the Bainimarama government can continue its program of service delivery to all of our Fijian people. It is why they put us over here and you are on your chair. Madam Speaker, let me say. Madam Speaker is there. Madam Speaker, let me say what is really boring for those of us on this side of the House. To be lectured by someone who went to the nation at the last election wanting to cut VAT to zero, without ever giving a rational explanation as to how he intended to make up the 300 million shortfall. Someone who misused his position as chairman of the Public Accounts Committee to grandstand and score cheap political points. Someone who has to apologize to you, Madam Speaker, for impugning your integrity outside the Parliament. Someone who finds, listen, someone who finds our economic program boring.
Point of order.
Madam Speaker, I think you've ruled on this one already. Imputing improper motives to other members is one of those things that's prohibited in speeches. That's the point of order, ma'am.
Couldn't hear you properly. Just repeat what you had just said.
You had ruled on this, Madam Speaker, yesterday to not infer improper motives and the like to members while speaking. And you asked us to refrain from it. It was raised yesterday and you ruled if the minister could refrain from doing that. I'm sure the honourable member is a big boy, he can handle all manner of insults, but it's in the rules.
Thank you. The issue has been raised, and I had addressed it as well. So just please refrain from addressing a member directly. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I was thinking that I was only trying to make a statement of fact, but I'll take your guidance on this matter. Madam Speaker, there are many things that can be said about this budget, but boring isn't one of them. It is the opposite of boring. It is, in fact, exciting. because it holds so much promise to improve the state of our nation and the prospects of our people. In my own ministry, lots of exciting prospects are in store as we upgrade the capacity of Fiji Roads Authority, the Department of Works, the Water Authority of Fiji, the Department of Meteorology, the Department of Transport Planning, the Land Transport Authority, the Government Shipping Services, the Maritime Safety Authority of Fiji, and the Department of Energy. Before I go into any detail, I want to say something about the government's overall management of these vital components of our economy, Madam Speaker, including the infrastructure on which all Fijian people depend. In fact, that water, power, and roads make no distinctions about race, color, or creed, neither about men, women, or children. All the peoples benefit from them. Better water supply is the wish of all mothers. Better roads is the wish of all parents that want security for their children traveling to and from school. Electrification is the dream of all rural dwellers that do not quite enjoy the benefits of this service. Madam Speaker, in that light, I happen to be the billion-dollar man, with overall responsibility for 8 departments and 4 commercial statutory authorities with a combined annual spend of $1.1 billion. That's a third of our national budget, tasked with a massive responsibility to deliver these services to all Fijians. And I promise you, Madam Speaker, and the rest of this House, we will deliver. Questions have been raised by certain honourable members opposite about my and our ability to handle all these responsibilities. But let me explain something. For the past 2 years, I have come within my allocated budget of many hundreds of millions of dollars while delivering the biggest rollout of basic services in the nation's history. More importantly, I am part of the government that knows precisely what it is doing. We don't just pluck figures out of thin air. We have a plan. We have built capacity where none existed. We have people on this side of the House who not only deliver, but have a vision of where we want to take this nation. Madam Speaker, it is our defining characteristic that separates us from those sitting opposite us. And all around us is evidence of our ability to make a difference. Take a stroll outside. Look at Victoria Parade. Before we came along, Suva was going backwards. Now we have a capital we can all be proud of. Take a drive to Nandi or to Rakiraki. Our roads haven't been in a better state for 40 years, and we are continuing to make the necessary investment to improve our infrastructure because it is key to economic growth and progress, Madam Speaker. Those opposite may think that's boring. Oh, we don't. We deliver. We serve. We intend to honor our commitment to the Fijian people to keep doing so next year and beyond. Madam Speaker, I would very like to go very quickly on a snapshot of some of our plans for 2015. Madam Speaker, there's an old Chinese saying, to get rich, you must build roads. They are the arteries on which any nation thrives, and if they are not in proper condition, its economic health suffers. The Bainimarama government has ended decades of neglect of our roads with the biggest investment ever made in Fiji's infrastructure. All over the country, our arteries are either being repaired or new ones created. But there is still much to be done, Madam Speaker. In 2015, the Fiji Roads Authority has been granted a total of $653 million to address the backlog in the maintenance of our roads, including bridges and jetties. This includes a provision of $155 million for the Nandi Silver Road Upgrade Program. Already, the journey along our busiest highway has been vastly improved, and those improvements will continue. Last year, Madam Speaker, we began transforming the lives of people living in the Singatok Valley by sealing the first 15 kilometers of the Valley Road, and that work will also continue. And for Fijians living in the north, 2 major projects receive allocation of $78 million for the completion of the Namboalu-Tundaketi Highway and $13 million for the Muda or Hibiscus Highway. We expect economic activity in the north to double over time because of this investment. More tourism, more market access for agriculture, more general economic activity. Then there is the upgrading of our vehicle and passenger gateway to the north, the Toby Jetty in Northland Teluk. Plus further work at jetties in Nambuwalu and Sabu to complement our road upgrades in Wonolevu. Here in Suba, the reconstruction of the critically important Stinson and Watuanga bridges will commence in 2015 with an allocation of $3 million, Madam Speaker, supported by a supplementary grant from the Chinese government amounting to $15 million. And in the West, we are finally building a new bridge in Tundenarau, our most important tourism destination. Certain honourable members opposite have a problem with us hiring foreign contractors to undertake our road upgrades. But we make an apology for doing so, Madam Speaker. We needed to end the corruption in the old PWD and the loss of basic road building skills in Fiji. These are gradually being restored, and responsibility for our roads will eventually revert fully to local firms. But until we can make world-class roads ourselves, we need overseas experts and contractors. The Bainimarama government doesn't believe in localization for its own sake, Madam Speaker. We want the best, whether it is in infrastructure or any other sector, and the Fijian people deserve the best. Listen, honourable member, you might learn something. Madam Speaker, the same level of commitment to roads is being applied to water, the most basic of human needs. In 2015, $239 million has been allocated by the Water Authority of Fiji to continue addressing the year of neglect of our water and sewerage infrastructure. And I am making it a personal priority to push through the projects that need urgent attention. Whether it is the $4 million allocated next year to provide water to those living in the Ndelene-Vesivesari corridor, and I'm pleased to say that that work has already begun, or the $23 million to relieve the stench from the Kinoa waste treatment plant. For 2015, $17 million has been allocated to upgrade Waturi Dam and Sambeta Dam to support the increased demand for water in the Nandilo-Toka corridor, and to commence an engineering study to harvest water from the Rio River to improve the flow to the Nosuri-Suva corridor and Teleu South and Northland Teleu. We're making an unprecedented investment in wastewater management, including an assessment of all major water and waste pipes in the Suva-Nosuri corridor, Nandilo-Toka, Singatoka, and Lambasa. $2 million is allocated next year to find faults and leakages, and $22 million to fix them. I mentioned that we want to make the Kinoa sewage treatment plant fragrant again, but this work on sewage infrastructure will also be extended to Navakai in Nandi and Natambua in Lotoka. Madam Speaker, in 2015, we also continue our program to improve the transport sector, another vital component of our economy at around 6% of GDP. This includes a major reform of the Land Transport Authority, which receives a budget allocation of $3.3 million. I'm going to be very frank about the LTA, Madam Speaker. There is a widespread perception of corruption about this organization. And unfortunately, much of it is true. But we are doing something about it, just as we are insisting on the LTA generally lifting its game. What I want as minister from the LTA is for them to do an honest day's work. And to those in the organization who are corrupt, who take bribes from ordinary Fijians, you better believe it, I'm coming for you. I also have a message for road users who exceed weight limits and damage our roads, or who belch exhaust fumes into the air. We are also coming for you. After you, with the help of the police, and $197,000 has been allocated for new equipment to monitor vehicle emissions. Madam Speaker, as a maritime country, we have a special obligation to Fijians living in maritime areas, and the Bainimarama government and the Bainimarama government's commitment to them continues in 2015. For the past 4 years, we have been upgrading the fleet of the government shipping services. 4 new vessels are already operating: the Rongovoka II, the Tagnrendonu, the Singapore, the Wunilangi, and next year, $3 million has been allocated to complete the construction of a 5th vessel. These new vessels are transforming the lives of ordinary people in our maritime communities, making their journey faster and more reliable, and enabling them to transport heavy equipment and market produce. In 2015, we are providing 1.2 million in backup services for the government shipping services, new office space, workshops, and cargo holding buildings. Madam Speaker, time does not permit me to dwell on all aspects of the budget allocations of my 8 department and 4 statutory authorities. But let me take a broad brush to the rest. It simply means more lighthouses, more maritime safety authority officers, more counter illegal fishing and protect Fiji's borders, the creation of a land transport policy and maritime transport policy, technology and infrastructure upgrades to the Fiji meteorological services. And the list goes on and on. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I want to say this. I work on the basis of all the department and statutory authorities I supervise cannot operate in isolation. They must achieve a high degree of efficiency individually, but they must also work together in a holistic fashion with a degree of teamwork. That is the ethos that we also bring to government as a whole. It is the sum total of our efforts that really matter, all sections of government working in unison and in partnership with the private sector for the greater good of our beloved nation. That is also the ethos on which this budget is based, all of our national priorities for the next year brought together in a spending program that is responsible, prudent, and will improve the lives of every Fijian. Madam Speaker, I thank you, and I commend the 2015 budget to this House.